Thank you, everybody, for coming today. Home stretch. I think we're the last session of the day, so that's great. My name is Kelly Johnson. I'm the Vice President of Sales for our global payments business at D&H in Canada. Sue Hutchinson, unfortunately, was not able to make it today. She had an emergency and had to fly out, so I am her stand-in for this session. The session today, I've actually had the opportunity of hearing Sarah tell her story a couple of times, and it's great. It's very compelling. It's a great story. So to have the opportunity to be here with her and Michael to tell the what, the how, and the why, we're very excited about that. So I'll let my colleagues introduce themselves.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. Hi, I'm Michael Osborne. I'm a director in KPMG's Financial Services Strategy Practice based in Atlanta, Georgia.
And hi, I'm Sarah Billings. I work for Bank of America Merrill Lynch, and I head up our global payment and DDA platform management group, which, as you'll hear this morning, really focuses on our global payments transformation journey. So,
great. So as I mentioned, the objectives of our session today are the why, the how, the what. I have the opportunity of talking about the why. So talking about some of the drivers and trends in the industry that are resulting in some of the banks having to look at modernizing systems, transformational journey around payments. So a couple of things from our perspective at D&H that we're seeing, and it's probably very much in line with the theme of what you've seen throughout the last few days, is imagine a world. Imagine a world where kids no longer know what cash is. So anybody who has children right now, that's actually not far from a reality. I have a 6-year-old son. He's probably never going to write a check. He's never going to, it's almost a reality in the space. Where payments are only transacted in digital code. We've heard a lot about distributed ledger technology over the last couple of days. The Payments Canada is doing some pretty cool stuff. There were some announcements that are done. This is all coming faster than I think we thought was going to happen in a long time. And physical wallets. We have Apple Pay now in Canada. There's many other new entrants to the market. A lot of us have already adopted those technologies. I know I have. I use my phone as much as possible. So this is all coming. And then what we're finding as well is mobile. So mobile and digital, the transformation from cash, checks, all of that. What we've seen as well is half of all credit card transactions are now initiated through a mobile device. So from our perspective, we think that the future of payments is here. It's a great theme over the last few days. The other thing, I saw a notification this morning from Thailand. There's many countries that have either started a strategy to move towards a cashless society or are already there. Sweden, I believe the new target date is 2020, where they believe that they're going to be completely cashless.
Hasn't Estonia? Is it Estonia that flirted with a completely virtual currency? I think. Fun fact, sorry.
Oh, yeah, no. I didn't know about that one.
Yes, I hadn't either, and I just heard about it. So
yeah.
You don't really think of countries like Estonia maybe leading the charge, but sometimes in a smaller geography and,
Sweden.
Yeah, Sweden. They have been out in front since the beginning, really.
Yep.
Yeah.
And now Thailand. So it literally was announced this morning in Thailand that they've implemented a new rail in order to incent the population to move away from cash. So a lot of aspirations there to move away from cash. So we've got a live polling, and I believe it's within the app. You can find this, so if you can participate, that would be great. One of the questions is, from your perspective, which one of the trends or drivers that we're seeing in the industry are having the most impact on our industry itself? So if we look at payments as a service, and do you know where it's within the app itself, it's within the polling?
Yeah, I believe it's just tied to our course.
Perfect.
Are you guys able to locate the poll?
I have no poll. No, there's no poll on this session so far.
All right.
Oh,
We can raise hands.
we can just do raise of hands.
Yeah, okay,
The old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, that would be great. So, so I guess from your perspective, which one of these trends do you believe is having the biggest impact on the industry? So when we look at payments as a service, you know, the opportunity for financial institutions to move away from large mainframe systems and move towards more subscription or a utility-based type service. Omni-channel, for anybody who was in Sue's last discussion, this is not a term that she likes very much, but so omni-channel, so really about having, no matter what the device is or what the entry point or channel that your clients are using, it's about having a seamless, easy, transparent experience with that. The implications of real-time payments. So again, there's many countries that have adopted or are adopting real-time payment rails, Canada being one of them, coming up hopefully soon, and just the implications of that. So not only the implications of the actual clearing in the countries, but how that impacts the banks. I look at it as, you know, the ability for a financial institution to adhere to an SLA of 5, 10, 15 seconds. Do your compliance checking, do your liquidity checking, and being able to respond to that. And then regulatory changes. So PSD2, where we're looking at open source, API banking, new entrants to the market, and of course blockchain. So I guess by a show of hands, if the poll isn't up, how many people would say payments as a service? So a few.
Yeah, a couple.
Yeah, a handful.
Yeah. Omni-channel experience?
Okay.
Real-time payments? Regulatory changes, PSD2 and SEPA. And blockchain. Wow, omni-channel.
Can I ask one follow-up, Kelly? So
Yeah.
for those that voted for omnichannel, just by show of hands again, are most of you serving traditionally more consumer retail clients or more on the corporate commercial side? Consumer retail? Okay, so more on the corporate commercial side.
Huh.
Okay.
And I think the fact that we had hands for everything shows that, you know, we're sort of in a melting pot of so many dynamics going on in the payments industry right now that, you know, these are all drivers, clearly. Some more than others, depending what organization you're with and what your agenda is, what your strategy is. A lot going on.
There is. So immediate payments, you know, further to just what I was saying about the timing in the SLA, when I look at immediate payments, it's not only about the new rail within a country and all the benefits and potential value that comes with that, but it's the implications to some of the financial institutions and having to, or being able to respond to what that actually means from a technology perspective. Again, you know, we often have single-purpose, siloed systems within financial institutions. I come from banking, so I've seen it firsthand, and just the ability to be able to adhere to some of these standards and SLAs are posing a challenge.
And I think if I can just add, from our perspective, real-time payments, the fast aspect of the payment is just one component, but the other value proposition there is everything that we can do with information. So sometimes you can see in practice where not real-time payment systems, but even in the US, real-time P2P transfer systems such as your Venmo, et cetera, you know, it's the information that's more important to do real-time than the payment. So I think when you talk about this, Kelly, and when we look at it, it's all of the above. That's when we talk about real-time payments.
When I heard in a session yesterday, one of the questions, I think it was one of the fast tracks, was asked, so what's the value proposition? What's the use case? And the lady who was on the stage, and I missed part of it, but it was her response. I actually thought was really great. It was more about the data, and by the way, just doing it faster was the kicker. Right?
Totally
it was
agree.
the value that was added on top of
Yeah.
that. So it really was just about the data itself. As I mentioned before, we're seeing this quite a bit, the adoption of ISO 20022 standards. the enriched data that can go along with that and be transported along with the payment itself. And so far, there's about 18 countries that have implemented or have an agenda to implement a real-time payment system. Canada being one of them. US is January 2017.
No comment. We'll see. We will see.
So just tying it all back together, so when you look at some of the drivers for change, some of the headwinds that the financial institution are facing right now, it's not only about all the things that we talked about, but then you layer on having to grow the interest rate environment that we're in, legacy infrastructure. It really does create a compelling reason for change. So I'm going to turn it over to Michael.
Yep.
Yeah. Sorry.
Thanks, Kelly. So hi, everyone. Again, I'm going to start with a short video to actually get us started. Kelly, would you mind playing that video?
Two Kellys here.
Yeah, I know.
I like to build planes in the air. I grew up wanting to be on a plane, wanting to be up this high. Sometimes the temperature of the altitude will reach 60 below. It's crisp, it's refreshing. You never know what you're going to come across up there. Canadian beef, mallard, owls. People like you, that's why I come to work. That's why I build airplanes in the sky.
We're not just building a plane here. We're building a dream.
I love this job.
There's a lot of bad stuff here. When I look over there and I see that little kid, the look in his eyes, that's all the thanks I need.
EDS, managing the complexities of the digital economy.
Yeah. So you guys saw that video came from a company called EDS. You may have seen it. It's about 5 years old. But that story offers a great analogy that Sarah and I have come back to over the years. Our friends in the airline would never try building a plane, obviously, in the sky. But we around this room are often asked to do large-scale, very complex projects in parallel to running a business and managing your day-to-day operations. And the success of that is often built on not disrupting your existing client base. So it's a funny analogy to come back to from time to time that we like to look back at and have a good laugh at.
It really feels real. That's what we do.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk for a few minutes about the business case around large-scale platform transformation. From a KPMG and consulting perspective, we are often asked to help our clients shape the story internally about making the case for why. And for that story to come together, often it's a blend of many internal and external factors. But the themes, although they should start with the customer, often trace back to technology. So it's hard to get away from that really being the foundation of the story. So many of these things may resonate with you from a legacy technology perspective. Things like inflexible integration with your more modern channels, having system instability issues and uptime issues with a legacy infrastructure. Perhaps you have redundant platforms based on having grown up through M&A activity and acquired without really having integration over the years into your back office. So the number of drivers can be many, but certainly can provide a compelling case to want to try and drive out a case for change. But oftentimes, starting the story with technology simply isn't enough, and you have to think about it through a client and end user perspective. When I think about customer expectations from their transaction provider, typically 6 key themes come to mind, at least for me. They want their transactions to be simple. They want secure. They want fast. They want transparent. They want personalized. And of course, as Kelly mentioned, often now we want mobile. To do that, obviously, you have to have the back office and front office to be able to support that. But oftentimes, those that have an aged infrastructure, you may be able to pull off having a secure transaction, you may be able to offer mobile through your channels. But more often than not, you're going to struggle to deliver what the client truly cares about in terms of simplicity, being fast and on time, being transparent and offering the data that they want in terms of transparency, and being personalized to meet their needs. From a target state business case perspective, and I think everyone loves a nice clean picture, and not meant to be overly simplistic, but really goes back to telling the case for change against why. And as we looked at with the live polling question, there are so many factors right now influencing your business and the success that comes off of that. So things like, as Kelly mentioned, being able to adopt and react to industry change, ISO being a great example of that. Legacy infrastructure is always going to be challenged to comply with in a meaningful and sustainable way. Being able to decouple your product development and your development timeline and cycles from legacy code is always going to offer challenges. Being able to enter new markets and scale for new client bases and volume, that will always be challenged without having the right back office in place. Better access to information and analytics. So from a client perspective, does this new environment offer you better, richer data that your clients will truly value and come to you and seek out? All components is a part of really a target state framework to shape your story. Alternatively, there may be many of you around the room that feel like the benefits that we just talked about you are seeking, and these are important for you to help grow your business, maintain stability. However, the idea of doing a large-scale platform transformation program may be a little bit overwhelming. And so, are there alternatives? One concept we talk about sometimes is really the freeze and wrap approach. This can sound overly simplistic, so I don't want to acknowledge that this can't or should be the viable option in every case. But there may be capabilities where you can single out and isolate core code within your back office, typically more often within accounting than you can within payments, but really isolate that core code, bring it down to its most basic functions, such as accounting and posting, and then wrap that system around better middleware, services, and data to really extract out the key elements to really facilitate your information reporting and analytics. But through that, perhaps you're able to circumvent part of the journey to truly transform the infrastructure. However, it still may be a short-term fix versus a long-term scalable solution.
So I actually saw this slide for the first time yesterday, and I love it. I love it because it allows for a financial institution with this kind of methodology to look at, actually taking some of the infrastructure that they've built, some of it very recent, right? A lot of financial institutions have recently purchased a tactical solution from a technology perspective, and spend a lot of money. It's a big investment and a lot of time, not just rip it out, right? So to be able to actually, do something like this and keep the existing infrastructure in place.
Yeah, and we can get into it a little bit in my part of the presentation as well, but Bank of America, we've done a little bit of both, right? So more on the payment side, what you'll hear later is a full core payments transformation, out with the old, in with the new. We were going to do that in sync with our DDA system as well, and for a variety of reasons, we are currently doing a little bit more of the freeze and wrap, sorry. We could shrink wrap it too.
I think that they both
cheaper.
work. Yeah.
So freeze and wrap solution, and we see that as a temporary fix too. So I think in every organization, it's never all one. So I'm glad that you brought up that solution approach as well.
So when it comes to ultimately making the decision, and obviously you have many factors at play here from a management committee, board of directors, line of business leadership perspective. But I like to think about really all these factors in three main buckets. The first being what I'll call the known knowns. So, and the formatting doesn't look perfect. But really, when it comes to being able to forecast the benefits of a business case around this kind of work, typically with a high degree of certainty, you can look at some of the core factors around your financials. So things like being able to enter new markets on the heels of doing platform transformation work. Can you grow new products? Can you expand your revenue base, enter into new markets? Those things can be easily quantified. Do you have the ability to better protect your existing base now that you've reached a certain scale? You now have your customer base in place. You want to protect that against the competition. That kind of revenue can be really forecasted into the model. Being able to really drive out operating efficiencies through your back office. Do you have certain platforms that if you can replace it will offer you significant economies of scale and improve your efficiency? That may help you self-fund the program as well. From a known-unknown perspective, you would also expect this work to drive client experience uplift. That absolutely should be a cornerstone of the program. However, the ability to quantify that and actually determine how to play that into your story can certainly vary based on the actual execution to see, are you realizing the benefits you'd expect from a customer or end user perspective? The lower left-hand circle says surrounding transformations. Sarah may speak about this. This is a big one that we all have to contend with. If we do a payments platform transformation, we're not operating in a silo or a vacuum. The rest of the organization is also evolving around you. So to the extent that other lines of business are also dependent on your work and vice versa, the actual benefit that you realize may be impacted when it's all said and done by your surrounding business partners. And then overall execution speed, I think that speaks for itself. And then lastly, the unknown unknowns. So simply, what is the cost of no action? We're here talking about all these trends impacting your business and the market. Things are changing literally by the day. So what is the cost of no action? Probably the funnest question on here to try and solve, but also probably offers the least amount of direct insight into the overall story that you put together. So with that, I'll turn it over to Sarah to talk about the Bank of America Merrill Lynch story.
Thanks, Michael. So I love talking about our journey to others, and there's a few reasons for that. Number one, I'm proud of what we've accomplished and what we will accomplish in the coming years. But secondly, this hasn't been an easy journey, and there's been a lot of stumbles along the way. There's been a lot of lessons learned, a lot of naivete on my part and on the part of others within our organization. And I always like to talk to other peers who may be entertaining some of the same efforts and try to offer some guidance as to what to make sure that you do and what to make sure that you avoid, which is always easier said than done. There were probably a lot of things that we said we'd avoid that we didn't end up avoiding, but forewarned is forearmed, right? So I think we'll start out with another not so live polling, or I guess it is live non-electronic polling, which is, of everyone in the room here, is your organization completed a transformation, a core banking system transformation? I guess that could be payments, that could be DDA, that could be credit. Or are you contemplating such a transformation? And the answers here, I'll just go in order. So how many have already completed a core banking system transformation? Woohoo! So I need to get lessons from you guys. We're still in the middle of it. Who is in the middle of execution? Good. And who is contemplating such a transformation but hasn't started? Yes, right. And who, it's not even on your radar whatsoever. You're probably not even in this session if it's not on your radar. So, okay, I don't see a lot of hands there. Good, good. So everyone's sort of thinking about it, done it, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I want to tell you a little bit about the reasons why Bank of America Merrill Lynch came to this point and decided to take the plunge, looking at all the factors that Michael shared, and of course, building on the industry dynamics that Kelly talked about. And it really came down to that balance between necessity and the opportunity. So I will say that Bank of America had attempted this core banking transformation at least 2, if not 3, depending on who you ask, times before this present initiative, which is underway. And every time it was more of a technology-led effort based on the fact that our technology, which is a homegrown, decades-old, very integrated global core banking system, was aging, and they felt the need from a technology perspective to replace it. And that every time we started, we sort of got so far, and then we, looked at it and said, whoa, maybe we don't need to do it this year. It's really expensive. It's really complex. Okay, fine. We'll be okay for the next couple years. And I think there are a couple reasons why we actually took the plunge this time. And that is, number one, you can't continually put it off. But I think a key factor is this transformation in Bank of America is jointly led by business and technology. So it's going back to what Michael said. Think about, and what Kelly said, think about where the industry is going. Think about what your client needs are. And that in combination with the compelling technology and risk issues that you're facing, that together gets you over that hump. Still not easy, but obviously for us, it was the two together that really formed that compelling business case, if you will. So the things on the necessity side of the equation are obviously managing that risk of our aging systems. So not only are our systems aging, but our resources that support those systems are aging, are retiring. And getting that type of support, especially for a homegrown system, which is millions and millions of lines of code, all integrated, and all like a lot of add-on and bolt-on functionality, that's not easy. And actually this is my next slide, but I will flip to it just for a second, because I think I should tell you, at Bank of America, the transformation that we're talking about is largely what we call our international core banking systems. So these are our systems that we use in our branches, 40 plus branches outside of the US. And it is a fully integrated system that includes payments, DDA, credit, trade, as well as other functionality around channels, analytics, and reporting. So that's our infrastructure. Your challenges will be slightly different if you have like more a standalone payments function to replace or more a standalone DDA system. Of course, they're always going to be integrated, but ours are extremely integrated by design. So it even posed us with more challenges there. So managing that risk of aging systems and the type of system that we have at Bank of America was a key driver, clearly, out of necessity. As Kelly alluded to, we are in a very interesting time where compliance has never been more important than it is today. The number of rules and regulations, if you just look at one country in Canada, but think about looking at it from a global perspective in 40 countries. And think about it being a very large, highly regulated US bank where the stakes are extremely high for any misstep. And our compliance people, the bar when we started this transformation may have been here. And as we continued with the transformation, it grew and grew and grew in response to current events and in response to when you shine a light in some of the dark corners of things, compliance people say, oh, well, now we want you to do this. So the bar's continually risen. And then the ever-present industry change, whether it's real-time payments, whether it's ISO, whether it's geopolitical changes, Greece, Russia, you name it, data security in Indonesia. I mean, we could go on and on and on. But again, couple this necessity with the opportunities that we have in front of us. We want to better serve our clients globally. When Bank of America built this integrated core banking system, which we call GBS, Global Banking System, very catchy, doing international payments was like an adjunct, like a little hobby. We had these large multinational clients, and we served them in the US. And we just wanted to help them out as a courtesy. If they had a large deal in Canada, in Europe, in Asia, they might have had to do a couple payroll transactions here and there. So this system grew up really with a very low volume of transactions in mind and very high touch approach in mind. Obviously, the world has really changed, and our clients are absolutely global. Almost every segment, not absolutely, every segment you could look at from the smallest business to the largest multinational is going to be global in some way, and we need to serve those clients better. Data is a key component of this transformation. So what we're going to talk about today, what we focus on is, let's just say, transforming our core payments platform. But you can't just transform your core payments platform. So you have to look at the channels, how the transactions get into your core payments platform, and you also have to think of the data and the reporting that comes out of it. You have to think about this holistically. If you do one and not the other, you might as well not have done anything at all. And I give a great analogy. One key reason we're doing core payments transformation is because we want to increase our capacity. Remember I said this was a hobby. This was to do a small volume of largely high-value transactions for our clients. Well, now we want to do mass payments, just like we do in the US, just like you do in Canada. You know, utility payments, insurance payments, hundreds of thousands of transactions per file. We want to do that for our clients all around the world where they need it. Well, if we don't enhance our channels, how good does the high capacity in our payments platform do us if you don't have high capacity in your channel? So, and then if you're doing that kind of business, mass payment, it sort of differs from doing a couple wires here and there in terms of your client's reporting needs. How do they want to see exceptions? Things like that. So it's sort of like redecorating a house, or I've never done this, or building a house, or doing some remodeling. What I hear is, you know, you start with, well, we're just going to remodel the family room. We're going to reface the fireplace, and we'll put in some new wood flooring. And then, you know, well, your kitchen looks really shabby next to your family room, and it just goes on and goes on. So you really do have to think of the end-to-end, the whole house, if you will. And a huge goal is to enable that end-to-end data transparency. And then lastly, obviously, to drive innovation. We're very aware of what's going on in the industry at its own pace, depending on what country you are in the world, but certainly globally, all of these trends are happening. We have to be ready. And how do you even contemplate doing real-time payments on a very old technology infrastructure? It's quite hard. So we want to be ready. I already really spoke about this, very integrated components of the global banking system, and it's currently deployed in 40 countries internationally. So this is what I was saying. When we talk about the need for transformation from a business perspective, we really do want to invest to support our existing global transaction services business in all of our regions, APAC, EMEA, Canada, and LATAM, the way we look at them at Bank of America. And that's very important. So finding better ways to do low-value payment processing, you know, more straight-through processing, and also supporting traditional high-value wire-type payment processing with all the channel capabilities and reporting that I spoke of before. But at the same time, we're building a foundation to bridge to these emerging innovations. We don't know right now definitively how these are going to go. There's a lot of talk about blockchain. We're not building this system specifically for blockchain, right? But we are having those capabilities in mind and building this system to be flexible enough that it can take us into the next couple of decades, whatever takes off, be it blockchain, real-time payments, obviously. I think it goes back to Michael's, the known knowns and the unknown, no.
Known knowns, known unknowns, unknown unknowns.
There's a lot of unknown unknowns
Yeah.
in payments, right? And we just figured that if we build it configurable, flexible, if we build it, you know, fast and on the latest technology, we're going to be much more nimble to be able to adapt to what comes. And just a few things that are the known knowns are on this page here. And in that data transparency and analytics, I don't want to underestimate that because, you know, I work on payments transformation all day, every day, but in a way, our clients never see that. Our clients don't care about our back-end payments platform. They expect that payment, that value to get transferred from A to B. What they do see is the user experience of the channel, and they see the user experience of the reporting and analytics that we can give to them. And so we really focus on those areas. And one of the problems with legacy systems, which I doubt it's only our issue, but is we truncate data. So these systems were built when payment clearings couldn't always carry very much data. And the type of data that goes with payments was really never contemplated at that point. So we do truncate data. With the new systems, we will never truncate anything. I mean, obviously, we can only send to clearing what the clearing allows, but we will store that data if the client gave us. Therefore, it's available for reporting and you know, predictive and prescriptive analytics. So we had a few goals with our transformation, and they really fall into these three categories. First, I just want to say that our outlook is rather long-term. but we looked at our clients' needs over the next, let's say, 5 to 15 plus years. So really trying to imagine the future, as Kelly started with in the presentation. Very importantly, we had to discipline the team to think about transformation versus replacing. So we didn't want to replace like for like, and that's a very hard mindset to achieve in an organization, especially when people have been using this system for almost 40 years. And there are different challenges with, let's say, an operations group versus maybe a product group. So we have some lessons learned there that I'll talk about. And of course, we want to do it with an eye to offering new products to the market, enabling new revenue streams, and bridging that emerging innovation. In terms of the clients, we always try to keep them front and center in this innovation. So as I said, looking at the holistic client lifecycle, the client user experience, and see what we can do to improve it. Reimagine things in different ways that open up doors that weren't open before. And we have to always tailor our processing to the unique regional and local requirements. So we have sort of a mantra, which is we want global consistency. If our clients, largely our client base at Bank of America being US-based multinationals, if our clients had their way, they would have everything work like US ACH and the US wire system. And I'm looking at my Canadian colleagues. I think you would agree with that, right? But that obviously can't always happen. There are many different regional nuances, and sometimes they're small nuances, sometimes they're rather big. But we always have to keep that in mind, that our clients want things to be consistent, but of course, we have to adhere to the local ways of doing business. So it's always going to be a balance. And also, we're looking to give our operational colleagues a real leg up. Again, as I mentioned, our current systems were really designed to be very high touch. And as I've been getting into this work, I'm just continually astounded with the amazing work that my operational colleagues do every single day. The care at which they take the client's transactions. If anything's wrong with it, they want to be able to interpret it, they want to be able to fix it. And they do a fantastic job. But obviously that comes at a cost, right? And clients don't always want that high touch approach. Sometimes they do, and we offer it. But sometimes they want that pure STP. If something's not right, just reject it back to me, I'll figure it out. They don't want to pay for repair, things like that. So really, and our old systems couldn't always go on high speed. So we are helping operations to have more efficiencies, get more straight-through processing, and standardizing procedures that grew up in different times at different places. Again, shining a light in those dark corners. Asia might be doing something very different from EMEA, from Canada, and from LATAM. And simply by getting the regions to all talk to each other in the context of this large transformational effort proves to have a lot of benefits, and everyone can adopt everyone else's best practices. So that's been a huge goal and very successful. In terms of our delivery approach, we have sought to build a foundation, and you see here highlighted in the colors. We really said, well, let's build the low-value foundation. So the ACH type foundation, we started with SEPA in EMEA, which is an ISO-based clearing, so highly reusable to other ISO-based clearings, as well as we had a business need there as well. So we said build the core low-value capabilities, build them for SEPA, but build them to be globally reusable to every country around the globe. We did the same thing with core high value. We picked Singapore MEPS Plus clearing, which is a SWIFT-based clearing in Singapore for wires. And again, we built it for MEPS Plus, but always thinking, make it globally reusable, don't close any doors from a technical design standpoint. And then the other part of our foundation, which we're working on, is to layer in our core FX and financial institution type processing capabilities. And from there, then it's just a rinse and repeat, I like to say, which is totally underestimating the effort. But we have our foundation, everything gets easier. So whereas you started out with a blank sheet of paper for your business requirements, now you have, okay, here are the requirements. If we go into India, which is what we did, went into India and said, well, here's what we built in Singapore and EMEA. Do you want all of this? And do you need anything else in addition? And then it's sort of like a laundry list to check off, and it becomes much easier over and over the more times you do it. We really focus on the hardest things first. There are benefits to that, there are drawbacks to that. But SEPA, we focused on when SEPA, there wasn't even a live, we hadn't even hit the live date where all local payments had to stop and roll over to the SEPA clearing. So there were a lot of things up in the air as we were starting the SEPA work, but obviously you get a huge bang for your buck in terms of working on the SEPA clearing in EMEA. You hit so many countries at once. Same with India. We have a very complex system in India and a lot of unique needs. But by hitting some of these large geographies that are very important to Bank of America first, we were able to have a big impact. And then our goal is to accelerate as we scale to about 100 different clearings around the globe. So I know I'm taking a lot of time here. I'll just quickly go over some of the execution challenges, which I've noted throughout. But this is sort of a list. If you're going to try this at home, you might want to print this out and pin it up by your desk and learn from our experience. Number one, we are doing this transformation with key stakeholders distributed across EMEA, the US, and Asia. What that means is we are not sitting in the same room, and we have very little time in the clock that we can actually talk to each other. Generally about 2 hours a day when we can get all the team members on the phone, which is between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m., my time zone in Chicago, and 7 and 9 or 8 and 10, depending on the time of year in Asia. So that's like doing this transformation with a hand tied behind our back. So anything that you're going to do that's within one country, you don't need to worry about this, and it's going to get so much easier. So we try to manage this with face-to-faces from time to time. You develop very good working relationships, and you really learn to use your virtual tools, but it is a very big challenge. Also, silos within the organization. I talked about channels, platforms, reporting. You have all types of silos in a large organization. Middleware is separate. So we totally enforce having a end-to-end holistic view. And to do that, you have to sometimes just drag people to the table, right? And you have to really think, who does this touch? And break down those silos. Very, very important. As Michael alluded to, we are doing this in a time where nothing stands still. So there's continuous organizational change because by nature, a core banking platform transformation is going to take many years. You're going to lose people along the way. So documenting things, having a core group that's consistent and dedicated really helps to overcome that. And the same thing, the industry shifts. And you can have things happen after you do the requirements, but before you go live. And you have to be able to shift right there with it. It's not always easy. And the unknown. As I said, we have a very highly integrated banking system. So it's like a surgeon doing that very complicated surgery on nerves and blood vessels and sort of taking everything apart. So as we decouple the payment system from the highly integrated other core banking systems, we want to make sure that we don't break anything, right? And we have to be very careful as to what we touch and what the dependencies are in the code. And then also parallel transformation program synchronization. When we started this journey, we were going to do payments and DDA transformation together. And that had a lot of benefits because they have dependencies on one another, and you could sort of change that paradigm all at once. It's also hard. It was hard for funding. I'll say the funding is the straw that broke the camel's back. So we put the DDA aside and sort of did the shrink wrap approach and focused on the payments initiation or the payments core banking platform. But there are benefits to doing both. It just takes a lot of synchronization. Customization, I think that's should be a 4-letter word. You should try to stay away from customization at all costs. We decided not to build our own system. We decided to buy best-of-breed technology on the market. And we had the going-in proposition to not customize, and we've tried to stay to that as much as possible, but we probably haven't done it enough. So don't customize if you can help it. I think if we did it now, we would customize less. But with the technology that was available then, we did have to customize it more. And then the business case, I think Michael talked a lot about that. And that is a constant challenge because this is a multi-year project that requires a lot of funding. We have an annual funding cycle. So every year, we sort of have to sing for our supper again. And I don't think that that's the ideal way to do the funding, but that's what we have to do. I think I've really already talked about the success factors are sort of the corollary to the challenges. So I'll just end with one of my favorite quotes from Daniel Burnham, one of the city planners for my city, Chicago. And I think that this really sums up, what you need to think about, how you need to set your mind if you have done or are doing a core banking transformation. It's not a little plan, but you really have to aim high, think long-term, think strategically, and you will succeed. So I apologize. I think I overran a little bit, passionate about this topic. Should we take just a minute if there are any key questions? No, we cannot do that. Okay,
Yeah.
See us afterwards if there's any questions. We're happy to help. Thank you very much.
Thank you.